Hey everybody, this is Sharian from Redbird Natural Healing, and I want to introduce you to Carrie. And she is one of my great, amazing partners there here at Redbird. And she's been out for a while, and so she's back with us. And because she's back with us, this is something that we've wanted to do for a really long time. This is going to be our Wellness Wednesday. And so, what we would like to do is on our social media platforms and just in our center, we like to pick a theme every month. And when we pick that theme, we like to put up education about that. And so then that ends up starting some conversation with our clients that are coming in. Sometimes it starts some conversations with different people online. And so what we're wanting to do with this Wellness Wednesday is really to get some good conversation going here. So we thought, well, Carrie and I would start it ourselves. And so this month, and we're talking about menopause because it's Menopause Awareness Month, and it's a subject that's very dear to my heart. But more than anything, it's just the purpose of the whole Wellness Wednesday is to get some good education out there. Carrie and I both love to teach. We want to answer your questions, and we want to create an atmosphere where you know that you can ask us anything. And then we'll also have some guests on from time to time and kind of go from there. So before we start talking about that right now, I want to welcome Carrie. So welcome her back. I am so excited about that. Carrie has a lot of expertise in a lot of things, but let me just tell you, one of the things that she's really great at is just listening to me, which is a big thing. And so she loves to um, she really does encourage me a lot, and we work really well together. So I'm excited to have her back. So Carrie, why don't you give us a little bit of what you have, your experience and your education, and where your passion lies, so people can get to know you as much as I do.
Great. My name is Carrie. Just a quick about me. I am married to an awesome guy. We have 3 kids. And that kind of plays into my story because I've been interested in women's health. I study women's health off and on, through the years. But as my kids have gotten older, I've just dived right into it. And I passed my traditional naturopath exam a year ago from the Institute of Holistic Integrative Studies. And I'm super excited to be a naturopath and specializing in women's health because that is something that I'm really passionate about. Quick side note, I also love pregnancy, birth. That's really what makes me super happy to talk and to teach about. And I'm going to be teaching a childbirth class in beginning at the end of October in Plano, Texas. So I'm super excited to get back into that. And then I'm currently working on a doctorate of naturopathy from the International Institute for Original Medicine. So always learning, always looking to see what else I can learn to expand my knowledge, generally and then specifically in women's health.
I want to say here too that I'm also studying with the International Institute of Original Medicine, and one of the classes that we had to take is midwifery. And I am just a geek about learning. I love to learn all these things and everything. And as I was going through that class, I was messaging Carrie saying, "This is definitely your subject. I'm not interested." Now, I love babies. I loved being pregnant, love having my babies, all that kind of stuff. It's just not my thing. So I can listen to those clients that come in and talk to them, and I can help them. I have the knowledge, but I would much rather them go to Carrie. And so, and she's okay with that. And there's some subjects that she would much rather me talk to them about, right? So,
Yes.
so I think that's really a great thing. So this month is Menopause Awareness Month. And, you know, every month we pick a subject, and there's tons of different things that you can choose from. And obviously, in October is also Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And I'm kind of one of those, like, if everybody's doing that, I don't want to do that. I want to do something different. I think the reason I wanted to do this month is because finally we're getting some really good education about menopause out there, right? So there are a lot of different practitioners, whether it's Western medicine or in the alternative field. They're all, you know, there's a lot of people that are doing that now, right? And so one of the things that Carrie and I were talking about is why we want to do that. First of all, I'm post-menopausal. I'm not, I should be actually in menopause, but we'll come back to that. I went through it really early, and we'll come back to that for a reason here in just a minute. But we want to talk about the things that people look at um, for what they think is menopause, what they might not think is menopause. And I told Carrie before we got on here, the thing that I think irritates me the most about this for women is the lack of education, because she and I both have different stories about when we learned about our periods. But most girls, I mean, every girl has one, right? So in my generation, I went to public school, you go into the auditorium, they tell you about it, and then you're prepared for it. You go the girls go one way, the boys go a different way, blah, blah, blah. I don't know what they do now because I homeschooled my kids and I haven't been in public school since then. Carrie was just kind of told, stop
Mhm.
playing with boys, and because you're becoming a woman. My mother, that was her experience too. She was from a very large family and was told to stop playing with her brothers, and she thought she'd done something wrong. But there are still girls that do that. My mother, on the other hand, told me everything. And so by the time I was 8 years old, I was carrying pads in my purse to school, which is so silly. But then I also didn't even start until I was 16. So that's really late. And so that was, so it was kind of been a joke about that I was almost a senior in high school before I actually started menstruating. And, there were girls in my high school that were already having babies. And so such a different kind of look. But here's what happens. And I think, Carrie, you'll agree that you learn so much about your period, and then you start getting pregnant. So then you're in that phase. If you're going to have children, right? Then your midwife or your doctor tells you about what to expect for that. And then that's kind of it for
Mhm.
education for women, right? For our bodies. We might learn other things, but then we talk about our hormones being out of whack. And then I don't know about you, but I felt like that was my fault. Like there was
Mhm.
something that I was doing, right, that made my hormones out of whack. Did I eat the wrong thing, or
Mhm.
was I not taking good care of my body? But it was because I had a different hormone issue, right?
Mhm.
And so then now from our experience here in our clinic is we get women that come in, and they're in their 30s, maybe their mid 30s, and then we do a hormone panel on them and find out they're premenopausal. And then what happens, Carrie?
People freak out,
Right,
which,
right. They're
yeah,
like, right,
that shouldn't be happening right now.
right,
Like it's
exactly.
supposed to happen at 50 or,
Right.
things like
They're
that.
like that all they hear, they don't hear the pre, they
Right.
just hear menopause and they think, "Oh my gosh." Now they may not
Right.
want to have any more babies, right? But they don't want to be in menopause either, because that's something for their mom or their grandma. And
Hmm.
so they don't think about it for themselves, and so that becomes a real problem. And so what they don't understand is that premenopausal stage can be 10 years
Hmm.
before they're going into menopause. And then when they're in menopause, that menopausal stage can be another 10 years. So if you start, the average age for menopause is 51.
Hmm.
So if you're doing premenopause, then you're usually in your 40s. So if it's mid 30s, it definitely can happen. But if they started when they're 8 or 9 years old, that also might be where the phases of their life is going, right? And
Hmm.
so you would think with me, like since I started at 16, that my menopause wouldn't have started until I was in my 50s, but I had a trauma in my early 40s that put me into menopause just like that. And so that's another thing that can cause some issues hormonally, is some traumas. And so I never had any symptoms, not one that I knew of, or not
Hmm.
the ones that we typically are aware of. During that time, I didn't really have anything. And my heart doctor, because I had an issue with the electrical pathways of my heart. And so all of that happened, and he didn't believe that I was in menopause. And I just knew I was. And so I went to go get it tested. And sure enough, I was already done, is what she said. That store's closed. And so it was okay because I didn't have any symptoms. Well, then now, like literally 13 years later, now I had started having menopausal issues. And I was like, what's going on with me? What's happening? Well, you know what happened is that I really started working on getting my body healthier. And so when my body began to get healthier, then I started actually having some hormonal symptoms. And so it was a good thing. I may not like all the symptoms, but it was a good thing because I was actually getting into a good, healthier place. And so, anyway, so what are some of the menopause symptoms that come to your mind, Carrie, that you feel like people have?
Women often have a hard time with sleeping, like they'll wake up, they can't go to sleep, or they'll wake up, things like that. Weight gain can be something else that happens kind of in the perimenopause, menopausal years. A big one is vaginal dryness, which that can cause painful sex. So that can be an issue that women come to us for. Low libido or high libido. We were kind of laughing about that just
Yeah,
as your hormones are going through that transition. Um, your body can either respond by being like, nope, don't want it, to yes, let's have it all the time. It kind of
right.
just depends.
Yeah. And that's so funny too. Not funny, haha, but it is interesting to see that because and you're certainly not in this situation, but when you're in your 50s and maybe it has kind of gone off a little bit simply because you've been busy with life and busy with your kids and
Mhm.
all that kind of stuff. And or maybe relationships have changed a little bit and then all of a sudden now like you really want sex more. And so
Mhm.
that is a different kind of understanding and understanding that it's hormonal. So that
Mhm.
can be interesting. I think too, the interesting thing to understand about weight gain is that most of the time it's that visceral area, right? Your mid people will call it the what is it? I was going to say flat tire. That's not right. Right. The spare
Spare
tire.
tire.
Spare tire. They call it the spare tire, or it's the midlife crisis. You start beginning to get more fat in your abdomen. And that's really because cortisol goes up. And so cortisol is the only hormone that rises all the time as we age in
Mhm.
everybody, men or women. And so it can cause more problems with menopause too. So, so sleep, I notice for myself was joint pain. And here's the thing about that is that it can be joint pain because of menopause, or it can also be arthritis, right? And so if you have a tendency towards arthritis or that kind of thing, it may be hard to tell if it's that way, if it's arthritis or if
Mhm.
it's because of menopause. And women that have are in menopause, if they're having those issues, usually it hits the shoulders or the hips. So that's usually not just the knees or the fingers or things like that, but more menopause will be like frozen shoulder, or it'll be specifically like hip pain. What are some other things that people may not think about menopause
Uh,
symptoms?
Yeah, because our cholesterol levels are so tied into our hormones and hormone production. Often women will go to their doctor maybe for a yearly physical or something like that, and they'll find that their cholesterol is starting to go up.
Mhm.
That's just a sign that your hormones are starting to shift. It doesn't necessarily mean you're stuck with a life of high cholesterol, but it's
Right.
just one of those things where your hormones impact your cholesterol levels.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not something that people usually think about.
Hmm.
So I'm going to shift it a little bit. We didn't talk about this, but it's something that occurred to me is, um, hysterectomies are really pushed very
Hmm.
much with women. As a matter of fact, I've had multiple miscarriages, and after I'd had my son, who's our youngest, I had a miscarriage, and my doctor at the time suggested I go ahead and have a hysterectomy because I was done. And I jokingly looked at him because he had this big, beautiful canvas picture of him and all of his five children up on the wall. Three girls and our three triplets, three girls, and then twins. And so they had done IVF. And so his wife had had two pregnancies. One was a twin pregnancy, one was a triplet pregnancy. And so when he looked at me and said, well, I said, well, why do I need a hysterectomy? And he said, well, you're done, right? And I said, what? And he said, you're done. You have a girl and a boy, aren't you done? And I said, so there's nothing wrong. I don't need a hysterectomy because there's something wrong. And he said, well, you've had multiple miscarriages and you're done. You've got one of each. And I just looked at that picture and I looked at him and I said, are you done? And he said, oh yeah, I'm done. And I said, okay, I'll make a deal with you. And he said, what's that? And I said, if you get your testicles cut off, I'll get a hysterectomy. And he said, why would I do that? And I said, because you're done. You don't need them anymore. And he said, that's not how it works. I said, it is how it works. Mine are on the inside, yours are on the outside. And so we would never, most of the time, they would never consider that, but it's okay to do that for a woman.
Mhm.
And it was just not something I wanted to do, and I never have done that. Again, I don't think a hysterectomy is necessary unless there's really a necessity of it, and it's not just to stop having children. As a matter of fact, you know what? This is a funny thing too, is that when we look at things that are taken out of our body, like when we have our tonsils taken out, it's called a tonsillectomy, right? So the organ and then the ectomy means that it's being taken out, or an appendectomy. But what's a hyster? There's not a hyster, right? There's not an organ. So it should be like a uterinectomy or something like that, but it's not that way. So when it started, and I don't remember, it was in the 1800s or something,
Mhm.
when hysterectomies first started being popular, what they decided was that would take away a woman's hysteria. When
Mhm.
her hormones were going kind of crazy and all that stuff, and she was having more mood swings and things like that, it would take away her hysteria, and so that's why they called it a hysterectomy. So crazy, isn't it? I mean, just crazy. Anyway,
Yeah.
didn't mean to go off that way. But we talked about some different things. So we talked about trauma. We talked about vaginal dryness. The number one thing that people talk about with hot flashes is hot flashes with menopause, right? And you may not have
Or
those.
night sweats. I mean,
Yeah, night sweats. Right,
kind of
exactly.
both together,
You
but
touched on
separate.
sleep and weight gain, joint pain, um, and then the libido kind of thing, but you can also
Mhm.
have hair loss.
Oh,
So
yeah.
hair loss is a big issue. And
Mhm.
immediately people think of thyroid, and it may not be thyroid, maybe
Mhm.
something else, right? Cholesterol, bone loss, muscle
Mhm.
loss. And can we talk about not just hair loss on your head, but other hair? Like you're losing lots of other hair, or the other opposite is now you're plucking everywhere,
Mhm.
all the time. So that can be a pain. I do that every day. So that's another, issue. So if someone comes to us, Carrie, and
Mhm.
they're struggling with this, and typically why people come to us, sometimes they come because they don't want to do anything that is Western medicine. We do integrate Western medicine and natural
Mhm.
health. I feel like I'd be a hypocrite if I didn't. I think they can both can be very beautiful to help with the health of the body if we integrate them well. If you have a good MD, you have a good ND that can work together. So somebody comes to us and they're having one of these issues that we talked about. What's usually what our plan is?
Well, we always start with a pretty intense like health history because as Sharian said, it could be menopause, it could be perimenopause, or it could be something else entirely, or it could be menopause and something else. It's
Right.
not usually just one thing. And so things like, well, Sharon mentioned cortisol. Yes, cortisol naturally goes up, but what about your lifestyle or what you're doing also naturally increases cortisol? And what can we do to help support healthy levels? So that's kind of how we look at it is just even, if you are going in menopause, going through menopause, that's great. But then how can we help support your body in making that transition as smoothly as possible?
Right. And typically in Western medicine, there'll be a blood test that
Mhm.
happens for hormones, and we can certainly order that for you. It is a little bit cheaper. What we have found to be a little more accurate, though, is
Mhm.
a saliva test or we can also do the Dutch test, which is a kind of a combination of the saliva and your urine. So urine does a lot. We test a lot of urine in our center. It's kind of a window into your bloodstream, and so that can be very effective to test all the different areas of hormones:
Mhm.
thyroid, your progesterone, your testosterone, your estrogen, estradiol, and your cortisol to see where you are.
Mhm.
It does tend to be a little bit more pricey on that, and that's not in addition, or that our consult is in addition to that, but it's so worth it. I've done it myself and can really see a whole lot of difference in that. And I have compared it to blood work as well.
Mhm.
And so we can't prescribe, and we don't want to. We don't treat, diagnose, or prescribe at our office. We can educate you on how your body's working and really empower you with some things. And so, some things that we like to use, we do some supplements, we do some homeopathics, and then Carrie, one of the Carrie's very favorite things to do is herbal infusions,
Mhm.
and she is a whiz at that. So can you talk just a little bit
Yeah.
about that? We'll talk more about that into some other weeks, but
Mhm.
just hit on that a little bit, Carrie.
Yeah, the reason why I love herbal infusions is because you're getting a lot of nutrition, like whole food nutrition, because you're using an herb, which means you're not just picking and choosing, oh, I need this vitamin, or oh, I need this mineral, or oh, I need, fill in the blank. But you're taking the herb the way it was created, and you're making essentially a very strong tea out of it. So you're extracting all of the minerals, all of the vitamins, all of the protein that's in that herb into your infusion, so that way you're getting everything in balance. One of the concerns that with supplementing random things is sometimes you can cause an imbalance of
Mhm.
different minerals or different vitamins because you're putting too much of one. Like, for example, you have to have calcium and magnesium together. They work well together. Um, so that's one of the biggest benefits of herbal infusions is that you're getting everything together so that you have what you need your body needs to support itself instead of taking something that having too much or too little of something.
I love that you brought that up about the imbalances because that's also probably a pet peeve of mine is that, in today's world, we seem to have all of the information right at our fingertips. And
Mhm.
actually, just this afternoon, I saw another medical doctor talk about how vitamin C, if you supplement with vitamin C, will actually help to raise your progesterone, which is true.
Mhm.
However, that may not be what you need because the hair, I can just imagine that someone says, oh, well, I need more progesterone, but I can't actually take it. And so let me just up my vitamin C, but their body is already in an acidic state. So then they're adding more vitamin C, which is
Mhm.
making them more acidic. And now they're coming up with even more digestive issues or other issues. And so it's really not helping their issue. So what we like to do is always go to the root cause. So,
Mhm.
root cause may be hormones. It could be something else. It could be viruses or bacteria or parasites or, some long standing issue that you've had. And so between the two of us, I mean, it doesn't matter which one of us that you see really, but because we both talk about the clients that
Mhm.
we have and come up with the best protocol for that. And often, work together. Even when Carrie was on this hiatus for a while, we were still working together because we like each other too. We're very good friends
True.
that way,
Yes.
right? So that I was thinking that like that is one of the things that we do so often, isn't it? That we go, oh, this doctor on Instagram said to use vitamin C to raise my progesterone. Well, I'm going to do that. Well, now you're going to a person and saying, I don't understand how come I poop all the time. Well, it's because you're taking too much vitamin C, So, is there something else that can help to, regulate that a little bit, do that kind of thing? Yes. And that's why it's important to, yes, you can listen to all those people, even
Mhm.
us, right? But what we want you to understand is that the information that we give here isn't just for the thing that you have. It's really better to speak to to speak to one of us, to speak to
Mhm.
a practitioner. Let us ask our 100 questions. Let us do all of our testings that we do. and then really create a program that's specifically for you
Hmm.
because you may not need as much vitamin C as somebody else does, right? And so that's kind of where we're at it. So I think this is a good
Yeah.
start for Wellness Wednesday. What we want you to do is we want you to comment. We want you to send us some questions. You can comment under this and give us your questions, or if you're too embarrassed to do that, or for whatever reason, if it's more of a private question, then just DM us, and then we
Hmm.
won't say your name or anything like that. So the next week, when we have our next Wellness Wednesday, we'll still be talking about menopause, and we'll be talking about some very specific things and then answering some questions. And like I said, we will also have some different visitors with us and do that kind of thing. And sometimes you'll just see Carrie doing it. Sometimes you'll just see me doing it. However it floats our boat during the week and how we manage. So we hope that this really gives you some good education and empowers you to become your own health advocate. And then you get encouragement from us that we will walk right alongside you, hold your hand, we'll encourage you, we'll laugh with you. I'll cry with you. Carrie may not cry with you, but I'll cry with you. I'm the town crier. And so we do all those things really so that you can become your own health advocate and get the absolute best health that you need. And when you come see us, we hope that you'll know that it's going to be a good day. So
Yes.
um, that's a wrap for our first
Awesome.
Wellness Wednesday. And thank you so much for coming back, Carrie. I'm so glad that you're back.
I'm
And
glad to be back.
yes, yes, yes. And I know everybody will be as excited as I am to get to know you and love you like I do. So, but you can't have her. She's my Carrie. All right. Well, we'll see you guys next week. Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.